All right, I think we're ready to get started. Thank you for your patience. I'm Julie Terry, and I'm the graphic design professor here at Mount West Community and Technical College. And I wanted to acknowledge my fellow planners, which include Kimberly Priest, who's the web design professor, Jerry Doyle, right here, who is in marketing and business, Rick Brown. I don't think he could be here today, or he's coming later, I believe, and he's the chair of the BLAST division, which is Business, Legal, Applied Science, and Technology. Patrick Smith over here is running the sound and video for us. Josh Joseph, animation and gaming. I think I've got everyone. Okay, and we have 5 distinguished panelists today, and 2 of them are Mount West graduates. So we've got Josh and Alicia sitting right over here, who are proud graduates of Mount West. And today I'd like to start with a little quote. You learn something from everyone who passes through our lives. Some lessons are painful, some are painless, but all are priceless. So let's hope today's experience is priceless. So let's start off with John Augie to talk about a little bit about his who he is, education, work history, and where you are now. We'll go down the row with a brief introduction, and then we will do our showcase next, where you'll actually bring up PowerPoints and images to show us.
I'm John Augie. I'm with the firm Augie Gray Drake, and we're about 6 years old now. It started out as a very small design practice that we resided in the lower level of a law firm office building, and steadily built it. We're now located at Brook Street in the 3rd floor. It's a great space. You'll see photos in a little bit, and we have 7 people in our employ currently. Previous to that, I had been creative director at Charles Ryan Associates for 20 years, and prior to that had worked in smaller design firms, and actually went off on my own for a little bit there, which was a great adventure. I am a graduate of the Art Institute of Pittsburgh. It's a 2-year trade school, if you will, and then prior to that I had vocational technical training as part of my high school from 10 through 12, and great training, and then also took 2 volunteer summer courses. So always been creative, always loved this business, love this field, and it's me in a nutshell. I have some other things in a little bit. I'm a visual person, so you'll see that shortly.
Hi, am I doing this right? I'm Josh Keck. I am an MCTC graduate. I got an associate's degree here from the culinary program. I really enjoyed the culinary program. It was great, but I kind of figured out early on that there's not a lot of money in it, so I decided I'll take business classes. And I met Mr. Doyle, I met Mr. Brown. They were my teachers. I fell in love with those classes. They were great. I got as much here as I could, and then I went on to Marshall, got my bachelor's degree in business. Classes weren't that much harder, so I just kept on going and got my MBA from Marshall as well. As soon as I got my bachelor's degree, I ended up with a job at an accounting company. We did medical accounting, a company called Medical Practice Management Solutions, kind of a mouthful. It was a new company, kind of a startup. The owner had previously worked at a hospital and had a ton of money from when he sold the hospital and just started up his own company. My business degree was not in accounting, it was in management, but because I had Mr. Doyle and I had some good accounting teachers, I was able to do the job, and I learned a lot as I went along, and it was a good experience. I worked there for about 2.5 years, and then I got called from someone I'd worked for part-time while I was going to school. His name was Larry Main, and he owns a framing supply store here in Huntington, and I worked there part-time in college. And I never expected to hear back from him, but 5 years later he calls me and says, "Would you like to take over my business?" And so I struggled with it for a while, but eventually I said yes. I've been there for about a year. We've been growing the business together. I'm taking over as much as I can. He's retiring. We've got about 40 employees. Last year, this time, we had about 25. So we've been growing. Sales are up about 25% this year. So it's been a big change in my life. But I've got pictures, and I'll show you more as we go. But that's my intro. You've got one.
Hello, my name is Alicia Meadows, and I graduated from Mount West just 6 months ago. I was very fortunate to actually get my job at Rocket 7 Interactive, which is a digital billboard agency in Gallipolis, Ohio, because of the Mount West Christmas card contest. I won the contest, and through the powers of Facebook, a gentleman that lives in my county that I just knew who he was. I wasn't really acquainted with him. He saw my post through a friend of a friend and contacted me and offered me a job. So actually this month marks 2 years that I have been working as the only graphic designer at Rocket 7 Interactive. Before that, for 10 years, I was a hairstylist. I've always loved art, always wanted to come back to school, and I found this program, and it was just a really great fit for me, and I feel like I owe all my success in the last 2 years to Mount West. And this Friday, I am launching my own company called Lucky Cat Design Company, and I will still continue to work for Rocket 7 Interactive, but I have to be honest with y'all and say that I don't love doing billboards. So it is a job, and it has provided me a lot of opportunities. It's allowed me a lot of connections that I'll talk about when we do our presentation, but it also is allowing me to do what I want, and that's t-shirts. So I'll tell you more about that as we go on.
Hi, my name's Katrina Mayu, and I'm the owner of Brown Dog Yoga in Heritage Station and Tailwind Indoor Cycling, which opened in May. I am a 1991 graduate of Marshall University. I have a bachelor's degree in business, and then I went on and received a law degree from Vanderbilt University in Nashville. And I practiced law for about 13 years. I did in-house work in medical malpractice defense and environmental litigation. I worked for a company called Ashland Oil. Some of you might remember. It's no longer here in Kentucky, and then worked for a hospital system here in West Virginia. I went back and got a master's degree in business and decided after many, many years of searching, while I was, being a corporate lawyer, I was always dabbling in some sort of health and wellness. I continued to teach classes, and finally I decided that the office desk thing wasn't for me, and that I was going to pursue my passion as a career, and I opened my fitness company in 2007, which was really just a personal training and independent wellness consulting company. It's called PTK Fitness. And then in 2013, after many, many years of yoga training and apprenticeship and teaching, I opened Brown Dog Yoga. And I never work a day in my life because I do what I love, and that's not just teaching yoga, but I get to help people every single day of my life just live a healthier life, and I feel very blessed to do that. So I kind of went around the back door to do that, but I like to tell everybody that there's no roadmap to this. Just do what you love, and thank you for reminding me again of that. So,
can you hear me? This is working all right. I'm Bo Smith, and there's a particular reason why I am at the end of this table. I am the bottom of the adult ladder here. I'm the one, I write comic books, video games, television shows now, and I'm an old man that's got a 12-year-old boy trapped inside. And I don't mean that to sound weird or anything, but that pretty much sums it up. I have my physicality has grown old with the years, but the mentality has done nothing but regress. I'm here local, went to Huntington High, went to Marshall. From there, worked up, a lot of what you would call adult jobs, retail, construction, inspection, different things. But the one thing that I always wanted to do was write. And that's something I've been doing since 3rd grade. And it wasn't until I got into the 30s that I figured, well, this adult stuff is okay. It pays the bills, but you've got to do what you love. And at that point, turned things around and decided this is what I'm going to do. So I've been doing that for for 30 years. Also, because when you go to Marshall, I was a journalism major, and Professor Turner kept telling me, you know, we deal in facts here, Bo, not fiction. You can't make this stuff up. So it was kind of a rough road to hoe. I still wanted to make things up. So I looked at my minor in marketing and business because I knew at some point if I took a jump off the building, I'd need some sort of safety net. So for the last 30 years, I've been vice president of marketing for Eclipse Comics, Image Comics, Todd McFarlane Productions, McFarlane Toys, IDW Publishing, June Planning, and currently the Library of American Comics. So that has always been the backup to the writing. In the last 15 years, though, the writing has seemed to overtake everything else. So I've pushed the marketing back a little bit. So where they used to get 40 hours, they maybe get 20 hours a week now. So, and that's the beginning. We'll do the presentation. I'll pull out the rest of the tall tales.
All right, so are you enjoying this so far? You like these folks? Good. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, give a hand. Yes. I wanted to acknowledge that our president, Dr. Keith Catronio, is here to support this event, and we appreciate that very much. And Dan Fiegler, our finance director, is here. So having support from that top level is fantastic. And Rick Brown just arrived, our chair of our division. So now we're ready to move on to what everyone is really waiting for, the showcase. So let's see some of what you got here today.
All right. Okay. I'm really glad to be here and appreciate the opportunity to give you a little visual travelogue. So let's go down memory lane here. Yeah. Okay. So first thing, every once in a while I'll take my name and kind of do something with it. You know, just my own little creative exercise, okay? So this was one of my most recent ones. So, because the cool thing is, when I was younger, I found out that my name means I in German. And I thought, how crazy is that? I'm in the visual world. It's all about what I'm seeing and how I'm thinking about what I'm seeing. So this was one of the most recent versions. So, and to tell you a little bit about my journey, again, I would have to say, I mean, look at that. Isn't that? There's still elements, you know, remnants. When I was in kindergarten, I had this scary thing happen. I had my kindergarten teacher pull me out of class, and I was so fearful. I was like, what'd I do? She takes me in a room, and she sits me down, and she says, I want you to draw my portrait. So, I mean, I guess it was probably maybe my first work for hire. But years afterwards, every time I'd run into her, she'd remind me that I've got your portrait, and I still have your portrait, how much I love it. So, but it's that kind of support. To me, that was probably one of the earlier stages that said, these are the kind of people that are going to cross your paths in life, and particularly are going to fuel the fire for what you know you are as a creative person. So that was really instrumental. And then move ahead here, as I mentioned, with high school and vocational technical education, I had an amazing teacher in Votech. We had workplace inspections. We had to keep our work areas clean. We had time cards. Everything about it was all about the discipline side of commercial art, is what they called it then, commercial art, which was everything from doing show cards for signs you'd see at a grocery store, you know, to graphics. And I took 2 voluntary summer courses that I mentioned. Then from there, what then? So I realized I wanted to go to art school. So this was 1975, and I took off. And by the way, I was first in my family ever to go on to higher ed, which is, in thinking back on it, was pretty remarkable that the whole family, most of the family tree, I was probably teed up to be the first to go on to school, college. I mean, it was a great adventure. Pittsburgh was the place, the perfect fit for me. It was a great school. I hit it hard for 2 years, took 1 summer off, but then worked through the next. Had great training, did work workplace training as well. Worked for a design studio in Gateway Center. It was phenomenal. Terrific stuff, and helped me a lot. It was more or less finishing school because my Votech school was so intense and so thorough. So I'm high on 2-year programs and training, technical training, and super high on Votech as well. It works. It's amazing. So I'm big on quotes too. I think quotes are kind of this little window that opens up from people that tell you things that are always going to affirm. They're going to say, yeah, that's what I've been thinking. I feel that too. So designers are meant to be loved, not to be understood. It's really true. We want to be loved. We want to create something and say, yeah, do they like it? You like it? I mean, so you think about that. Another great one. Ideas are like rabbits. Get a couple and learn how to handle them, and pretty soon you have a dozen. So if you really get into that ideation mode, you know, and really embrace it, it's all about many ideas. John Steinbeck. And this one I love. I actually met a designer from LA years ago at a workshop, and it answers that question sometimes when someone says, well, you did it so quick. But I love this. It took me a few seconds to draw it, but it took me 34 years to learn how to draw it in a few seconds. And that's what we do. I mean, in this space, you just keep honing your skills, and you keep, you know, it's all about kind of working your brain, you know, to be thinking, always processing ideas. It's an awesome quote. Design is so simple, that's why it's so complicated. And I don't know about you, I think about like watching a dance, like a ballet or something. It's like, what the heck? I mean, really? That looks so simple. But you don't see all the training behind it. You don't see all the work, the choreography, the lighting, the everything, the sets. You don't see all that went into it. But if it projects that simplicity, then you're doing something right. So always striving for that. Paul Rand, great designer. Having a favorite color is like having a favorite lung. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite work that you did? I mean, they're all favorite. They all have great favor in my soul because I know the journey of everything that I've done. And this I love. I met Milton Glacier at another creative workshop years ago. Great quote. He has a book called Art is Work, which I love that title. But he says there are 3 responses to a piece of design: yes, no, and wow. Wow is the one I aim for. You've got to get hardwired to say, I'm going to knock their socks off. I want this to be a great solution, which takes work to make sure that you're going to get there. That's a great quote from Milton. And so next thing I just wanted to kind of touch on, I'm going to give you a broad stroke here, but I'm very big on environment. If my workspace isn't quite right, I'm not going to create well. If you're going to create in clutter, you're probably going to think in clutter. I mean, some people it's easy though. They don't have the issue. For me personally, maybe some of it is my Pennsylvania Dutch heritage, keeping everything clean and orderly. Well, if I can't start out with having things in order, I'm not going to be successful. So, quick shot of our office, 301 Brook Street, the Lee Building. This is what you see when you get off the elevator, and then take you on back. Now here you're going to notice there are no doors. It's all one big open space. And there are days it's quieter than your public library. I mean, it is like quiet. And then there are days it sounds like the trading floor at the stock exchange. Conference calls going on. But for the most part, it's a space that really works for us. So design Elements by IKEA. Made a big truckload of IKEA one day and set it up. This is right inside. And then you have Allie Fulcher Station, my business partner Stephen Gray's space. And as we go on back, again, this is the corner where we have a big conference table. And also in the back, and we'll show another photo of this, is another office area rather. This is my space. I have to surround myself. Every one of these little things, doodads, sculptures, toys, has a story. And I like to be surrounded by them because they make me happy. Which makes me create more. So This is a poster by Seymour Quast from Mobile Theater, Nicholas Nickleby. It's a brilliant creative piece that he signed and sent. And there's a picture in the foreground there of a roller coaster, which is very cool. I actually built it myself. It was rough, but it's a fun little roller coaster. And then I also have a space at home. I have to have my man cave at home where I can carry work with me and continue my creative. This was an old barbershop chair here, and you'll see robots around here too. I collect the wind-up robots, and there's a few of them right there. So, and some I've made, like I made this dude right here, and a few others that I handcrafted that didn't make it in the final pick. And inspirations and passions, as I mentioned, being surrounded by toys, but this is a photo, not a very good one, of actual painting, because when they were doing production cells back then, they would throw them out after they put them on film, because these were done in Mexico. And remember Rocky and Bullwinkle? It's a pretty ratty cartoon, funny, deep, but not a well executed cartoon. But that's Peabody and Sherman going into the Wayback Machine by Gerard Baldwin. So I have a hand sign. That's watercolor and ink. This is called Isn't She Lovely? And production still, Bugs was fond of dressing up in drag. And this was a detail from a gift tag from Walt Disney to one of his original inkers in his animation team. And a very dear friend gave that to me as a gift, as a photo of Walt that sits up top of it. That's just a piece of a little ceramic thing that I thought was great because it had 3 eyes, you know, like manic, always looking. So then I just put some really quick things down, and we can circle back to that a little later, but observation, taking the world in around you. My Votech teacher always used to say, you know, you should know what color socks you put on your feet this morning. Remember what color they were. Do you remember the toothpaste, the color of your toothpaste? It's all about observation, soaking in the world around you. And then interpretation. How do you see it, and how do you represent it? Okay? Your dedication. This is a lifetime dedication. It's what I heard earlier was doing what you love. It's not work. It becomes a life that you enjoy. You enjoy fulfilling your creative spirit and what you can do throughout life. And constantly feeding your passion, constantly seeking inspiration, going to events where you see other designers and kind of keep in the fold and in the community, and always stretching out, always doing more than you did the day before. So this is the little card that I got me into the White House back years ago. Before you see who's coming up next, I have a line that says, "Good design knows no party lines." So I've just, for the record, I've done work for Democrats and Republicans, but it's this particular assignment came by way of a very good partner, and so I had the opportunity to do the holiday tour brochure for the White House back in '98. It wasn't a particularly great time to be in the White House because there were a lot of things going on, but the opportunity to at least do something, do a project like this. This is the cover, and it was actually a folded brochure, and that was a quick shot of a younger John Augie. This was a graphic off of a linen bag that we did for Capital Market. If you've been to Capital Market in Charleston, I created the icons that are used throughout the market, from Christmas trees to pumpkins to tomatoes. And this was a theme campaign that we did that made its way onto tote bags. What's growing on? And then every year at the UC lawn, they have the Symphony Sunday. This is the icon I developed, and just to show you, we extended it throughout the years. This is a small sampling. Been doing this for over 20 years. But it's a small sampling of how they adapted the Watermelon Man with the themes each year being New York and Greek and heroes and Renaissance. So that was kind of fun to dress him up every year. And had the opportunity to work on the West Virginia 150. Funny story on this. This originally started out as a design with dots in it, and a dear friend looked over my shoulder and said, well, there's 55 dots, right, for 55 counties. And I feverishly worked to fit in the remaining 6 dots that would complete the 55 dots. So that's always a good example of collaboration and how you always have to be open for things. And then it became completely relevant. And circles are all about engagement and working together and energy. This is a detail of the map that was created on the inside of the brochure that was kind of playful on what things were happening and events. And again, building relationships. As you saw on that previous slide, this was at the end of our building, at the end of our floor, towards the back. But we value and those of you in your early years of this profession value those relationships. They mean something. They all have a connection. And again, I love this quote: to be creative means to be in love with life. You can be creative only if you love life enough that you want to enhance its beauty. You want to bring a little more music to it, a little more poetry, a little more dance, a little more design. We are in an age, I believe, of the creative emergence of the creative class. So we see it in everything. Everything is driven by design. And another thing just to remember going forward, don't fall in love with your first idea. In working with clients, there's always a need to explore more, to go beyond your first idea and know that you just might find something even better to build on or another direction around the corner. So it's really worth the trip. So that's just a really good business practice. So I guess I can move on here and then we circle back on any other work. That work? Okay, thank you all.
Okay, I guess I'm up next. I've got pictures, but I'm going to show them later on. I'm one of the younger people up here. I'm 27, so most of my life has been spent in school. So I'm going to talk more about education than anything. I've had 3.5 years in business with a real career, but I spent a lot longer than that in school. So I'm going to start with that. I've kind of been on all spectrums of the education system at this point. I'm an adjunct instructor here. I teach Intro to Accounting on Tuesday nights. I'll be teaching tonight. So I'm pretty used to talking to students now. I've seen a lot of them. I love it. It's a total, it's so much fun to teach students things that I got to learn here. But I wasn't always a teacher here, and I didn't always have 3 degrees. I started out my education by dropping out of college. I didn't drop out once or twice. I dropped out 3 times. So I started out at Marshall, and I think I started as a history major, and then I started as some other major. I don't even remember anymore. But it wasn't anything that I was passionate about. I didn't know what I was doing. I was taking a class in ancient Greek, not ancient Greek culture or literature, the language ancient Greek that nobody speaks anymore. And I thought, well, how silly is this? What am I doing? That's great for some people. Some people I'm sure are going to love ancient Greek and ancient Latin and all that stuff, but that was not for me. And quickly I found out that maybe college wasn't for me, and so I just stopped going. And I didn't realize you could drop out at the time with actual forms, to not get Fs, so I ended up with 5 Fs on my record for the first semester. Second 2, I figured that out and didn't get those Fs. But I did later on go and retake some of those classes, not the ancient Greek. Still have that F. Did take Plato's Republic, retook that one. That was an interesting one. But the reason I say this is because it was for 2 years after high school, 2 years, I had struggled figuring out what I was going to do with my life and what I was going to do about school. And then I figured, I'll just do something practical. So I figured culinary school. I like cooking. At the time I was a vegetarian, so I was constantly cooking for myself. I'm not a vegetarian anymore because in culinary school you have to cook meat. And so I kind of got away from that. but it was a useful function. Everybody eats at least 3-5 times a day. Wherever I go in the world, I will have a skill set that is useful, wherever I am. And so I thought, cool, I'll do that. Then later I realized, well, this is much more creative than, it's a very creative industry, and I'm not that creative of a person. I can't do what he does. I don't have that in me. I'm more of a numbers guy. I work better with accounting and Excel and spreadsheets. Not so much coming up with fancy plates that look really nice. Taste good, but maybe not look very nice. So I did that for a while. I did that for 2 years. I got my degree. I enjoyed it. It was back when Jamie Oliver was here. We got to cook with him. It was interesting. But I quickly realized that for me to make money at this, there's a lot of people out there who cook for a living. They don't need degrees to do it. They just have done it for forever. And, for me to go in with a degree with no experience and just expect to just be making a bunch of money and be in charge, oh, it's louder, it just didn't make sense. So I thought to myself, I'll get a business degree. I'll combine my culinary degree with my business degree. That way, any restaurant management job, I'll be qualified for. And so I did that. Before I even got my culinary degree, I started taking some business classes. I took Intro to Marketing, Intro to Business, and I thought these classes are great. I'm learning stuff that could really be useful to me, that's more in line with what I want to do. And so after, having dropped out 2 years of, wasting my life, and then 2 years doing culinary school, after 4 years of really not doing a whole lot for where I'm at now, I kind of figured out what I was going to do. So took business classes. I met Rick Brown, met Mr. Doyle. They were great teachers. They let me take a ton of classes. I ended up taking 24 credit hours one semester, and I loved it. It was great. After that, I went on to Marshall. Found out Marshall's not that much harder than Mount West. If any of you are thinking about going on to Marshall, highly recommend it. Yeah, it's more expensive, but if you came from here to there, you're totally prepared for it. They are not, just because it's a 4-year institution doesn't mean it's more challenging. It's right on the same level, that you are totally prepared if you go here to go there. So I did that it only took me a year after I went to Marshall to get my bachelor's degree. I got straight A's in all my classes. It went well. I decided, I'll keep on going. I'll get my master's degree. I was doing so well in the classes, so I just, kept on going. Another year and a half went by, and I got my MBA. After I got my bachelor's degree, at that point I felt like I was ready for a job, a real job. I had my 4-year degree. It took me 6 years to get it. A lot of people are on that 5- and 6-year plan. It took me 6 years to get it, and then I hit the ground running trying to find a job. And I did quite a few interviews. Ended up getting real lucky with Medical Practice Management Solutions. Only real reason I got that job was because I nailed the interview. Like I said, I didn't have much of an accounting background. I'd never done accounting before, except a little bit of QuickBooks, and I did not have a degree in accounting. My degree was in business and management. I'd only taken the basics. But while I was taking classes at Marshall and getting my MBA, I found out one of my classmates was the IT director at Cabell Huntington Hospital. And he's a big guy up. He was always wearing suits to class, making, you could tell he was making a lot of money. Every time he spoke about a project or something, it was always work-related. And so I was constantly listening to him and seeing what he was talking about. And he was all the time going on about electronic health records and all the different Medicare payment systems. And so by listening to him, I came into this interview somewhat prepared to talk about the healthcare industry. I didn't know much about it, but after listening to him, I kind of learned as I went. And so, as you guys look out and see what jobs are out there, I would recommend surrounding yourselves with people who, are knowledgeable and know these things, and listening to them and learning from them. Just go on YouTube and watch videos of people who are experts in their field, and if it's something you're interested in, try and do as much as you can to learn about that. But I got lucky with the interview. I knew a little bit from being in class with this guy, and just got lucky. So I ended up doing that job for about 2.5 years. I was in charge of payroll for about 200 people, and I'd never done payroll before. I had to figure it out real quick. I did payroll for 200 people. I was responsible for accounts payable of about $10 million annually, across 12 different companies, most of them medical companies, doctors' offices. But also we did accounting for Guyan Golf and Country Club, which is, they do about $3 million a year in sales. So that was a big account for us. And it was interesting. It was a good job. I really enjoyed it. I got to be somewhat creative. I didn't, do any stuff like John does, but I got to make custom financial reports. And I know that doesn't sound too interesting, but I got to make some really pretty graphs. So, there's always an element for creativity to come out when you're doing something you love to do. Even if it's not necessarily a creative job, it wasn't a creative job, it's a numbers job. But there's that possibility for creativity to come out if you really love what you're doing. And I did. I loved what I was doing. But then I got a great offer to go somewhere else, and I jumped on it. And so now I am at a company called International Molding. We are the largest picture frame manufacturer in the country. If we're not the largest, we're at least the second largest. Our competitor, Larson Jewell, is owned by Warren Buffett, and so they've got tons of money. They've got a great website. We're a little bit smaller in terms of how we do business, but our sales are right along with them. And I do have some pictures I wanted to show you. I got them up. Just give you a virtual tour of the warehouse here. Okay. How about that? Okay, so let me do this. Oh, is it? I'd have to touch it down here. I can do that. Okay. So this is our warehouse. It's an old 100-year-old warehouse. Used to make mattresses. Used to be a mattress manufacturer. And it's right near, here's an aerial shot. It's right near Logan's Meatpacking, State Electric. It's about 2 blocks from Marshall. I was going to school there while I was getting my, bachelor's degree. I was going to school here. It's in a bad part of town. Sometimes your tires will get slashed. How do I make that? I don't know how to rotate that. Is it this button? There we go. Sometimes your tires will get slashed. If you can see that. This is the owner, Larry Main. Sorry, it's a small picture. This is the owner. He's owned the business for 30 years. It wasn't always International. He sold his business, 60% of it, to International Molding. Before it was always Main Framing Supply. It was his name on the building. He's definitely one of my role models. He's kept a highly profitable company going for 30 years. Throughout some of the worst times financially in the last decade, he's always been profitable. He's always, done a good job. His customers really enjoy him, and they're all sad to see him go. But he's turning 65 Friday, and he's ready to be out. So. But just as you walk in, you're going to see tons and tons of frame samples. We have over 2,000 different types of frames. We try to showcase them. They're all crooked because we're constantly taking them off the wall and comparing them to people's artwork and seeing what'll work, what'll look good. We got various frames just all over the place. This place is full of frames. The building is 30,000 square feet. Here's a bunch of frames we're working on today. They're going to LL Bean, so we do a lot of retail stuff like that. Oops. More LL Bean frames. We've got tons of molding everywhere. The molding comes in from all over the world. It comes in from Asia, Brazil, Italy, wherever you can think of. We're getting molding. Africa. They usually come in 9-foot long sticks, and we'll cut them down and then join them together into squares. More molding. We got a pretty big warehouse. We get massive sheets of plexiglass in 48 by 96 sheets from plastic warehouses. We've got thousands of different mat boards, so the color mats that go in your picture frame. Mouse keeps moving. This is one of our production areas where we do probably half of our frames. Some of the finished art that we put together. Canvases, different things like this. We do a lot of art that goes into healthcare facilities, hospitals, doctors' offices, something like this. Healthcare, you're not allowed to have pictures of people. They don't, even if it's a person smiling, people can connect that with somebody, and they try to avoid that. So healthcare is always usually pictures of nature. one of our mat board rooms. This is where I spend a lot of my time. This is my buddy Cam. He's my spirit animal. Kind of see the joining process here. The frames get cut at a 45-degree angle and then just get joined together on this machine here. Put staples in from the bottom. This is our other production area. Like I said in my intro, our business has grown in the last year from having about 25 employees to 40. And the reason for that is because we've got a new customer who's just started up really in February and March. Really Valentine's Day is when it really took off. And this customer is a phone app customer. If you have an iPhone, you can search the App Store for Keepsake. And this is our customer. He's gone from doing about 2-3 frames a week to doing right now about 1,200 frames a week. And so he's kept us very, very busy. We've added a whole new production area. We've added 15 employees. He has caused our sales to increase by about 25% over the last 9 months. And it's been a big challenge. Larry Main, the owner I mentioned, he doesn't know how to communicate with this type of business because he's very averse to technology. He spends as little time on a computer as possible, and so I had to step in as the younger person and the technology person and say, negotiate this and figure all this out and figure out how we're going to do this, because this was very fledgling when I started. He had the app, he had the basis for the idea, but he didn't know how to execute it. And so we spent hours and hours talking back and forth about how to get this set up, how to get our production area set up, and how to make it as efficient as possible so that these frames are going out the door to the customer within 2 to 3 days. So all he has to do is, or my customer, all he has to do is customer service on the app. Customers, talking to the customers back and forth. We do everything else. So we're doing the frames, we're printing the images, we're matting them, everything else. We're sending them out, all of that's on us. And so while he can do it all by himself for the customer service, it takes about 15 people to get all these frames out every day. So just different pictures of that production area, some of the processes. Then some pictures from our open house. Quality control is a big thing here. We're always making sure that our images, when we print them, match the images that they sent to us, and we're always making sure that our molding matches. Looking at different colors in the molding, making sure everything is the way it should be. And I think that's all my pictures. Yeah. So it's been a wild ride over the last year. I've been trying to keep up with it. Every day is a challenge. The biggest challenge really is I feel like my career has Benjamin Button disease. I'm a young man working in an old man's position. Not an old man, but an old person's job. I went from, just graduating practically, 2 years out of graduating, to being the manager of a company with 40 employees, many of whom have worked for him longer than I've been alive. And so it's weird. It's really weird. I don't know where to go from here other than to stay at this job for a while. But I guess my advice to you is that if you have an opportunity like this, don't just shake it off and say, I can't do that. I don't know enough about it. I didn't know anything about picture frames. I still don't know anything about picture frames. But I know about running a business. I know about managing. I know about getting data from my system and looking at accounting figures and running reports. And that's important. Jerry Doyle told me while I was a student of his, that, let me make sure I get this right. I will make sure I get this right. He's here to help me. Any accountant can be a manager, but not any manager can be an accountant. And that's, to me, that speaks a lot, because I started out doing accounting. It wasn't what I went to school for necessarily, but I knew enough about it. I spent 2.5 years doing it. And now that I'm managing a company with $3 million in sales each year and 40 employees, that skill set has been absolutely indispensable. And I wouldn't change that for anything. I think that's it for me. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm just going to let my PowerPoints help me talk. I'm nervous. Okay, so I told you a little bit about the Christmas card contest that I won, and led me to a job working for a digital billboard agency. And one of the first things that my boss, his name's Robbie, said to me was, "You sound like you're pretty creative. Are you going to be okay just making billboards?" And to be perfectly honest with you all, I just want the job, so I said yes. And when I took the job, he was also opening a froyo and gourmet popcorn shop, and he also owns the movie theater where we live in Galplis. So I knew that there was going to be some other opportunities, but once the froyo shop got open, it was going to be back to just billboards. So my career there started out with a bang. I had to help do all the brand and identity, logo, everything for Pippin Heads, which is the froyo shop. And you can check that out online. I didn't bring any pictures, but I'm really proud of the logo. That's one of the first things I did, and it was the newest, brightest spot in our town. So a lot of people started to know that I was doing graphic design and that I was kind of sliding out of the hair business. And anyways, with the billboards, when I do a billboard for somebody, billboards, especially digital billboards, you can see for about 8 seconds, and people want everything on them. They would put their biography on them if you said that it was at a stoplight and people had time to read it. But the main thing you want to do is make an impression on people, and you want them to kind of know what it is. So these are just a few recent ones that I did that I brought to share with you. And I don't know if, where's the... Those 4 were all for Viva, I think it's Viva Jalisco. I don't know how you say it, but anyways, that was for a Mexican restaurant. And sometimes with the digital billboards, the thing that's nice about them is they rotate, so all the customers, they don't have to just have one image. They can have several images. They can rotate them as much as they want, but you want to keep them pretty similar so people start to recognize it. This one I just did yesterday. Actually for the yogurt shop for Pippin Heads. I know it's just the day after Halloween, but it's Christmas time. Sorry. But Robbie said, "Hey, I need 6 billboards." That was as soon as I walked in the door yesterday morning. And he said, "And I want them now because they're going to go up at midnight." And I was like, oh, okay. So, you have to try to come up with something simple, but something that's eye-catching. And who doesn't love Santa Claus? And the main message is get a gift card, get it at Pippin Heads. So that's, oops. Also yesterday I had to hurry up and come up with a few ads for a jewelry store who actually, Galplis is a really small town. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with it, but the Carrot Patch has been in business for about 20 years, and we just found out about a month ago that K Jewelers was coming in. So, and there's nothing wrong with competition. I think it makes businesses better, but the Carrot Patch, they always use Hearts on Fire is one of their brands that they like to advertise, and they're worried, because they're a small town jeweler. They're probably just a little bit more expensive, but you probably, I don't know, quality wise, I don't know, but they're getting a little bit away from their brand ads, and they want to get back to something a little bit more personal. So that was the reasoning for this. Is actually a local couple. Here we go. This was a local couple's actual flowers and their rings, and this was their engagement picture, actually taken at Snowshoe. And then again, sorry, Santa Claus, that's what's happening right now. So that's just, this is a restaurant in Chillicothe, another one of our billboard locations, but these are all ads that I came up with, and it's what I try to do, and I try to make them as best as I can. There's a lot of digital billboards going up. I hadn't been to Huntington a lot, but I came down last week and I saw 4 digital billboards that went up just in the last 6 months. So it's competitive, and I think one thing that sets our billboards apart from everybody else's billboards is the fact that I'm actually in-house and I can do these things for people, because we get a lot of PowerPoint submissions and maybe some very low-res JPEGs that doesn't look so good when we put them up on the board. So that's something that we can show people. And even though, like I said, billboards is not my passion, I take pride in every single one of them. I love to see them. And we went, in the last 2 years, we went from 3 billboards to 9 billboards in 9 different locations. So we are growing, and it keeps me very busy at work. This was one of my first projects that I did while I was in school here at Mount West. And just last week in Denver, Colorado, she actually won this campaign, and she was elected to the American Dental Association Board of Trustees. She's a dentist from Galplis, and I'm really proud of this brochure because she was actually told by one of our state representatives that she didn't have a chance. And my brochure was the nicest brochure out of the bunch, and I was in school here at Mount West, so I had it printed here in town at Chapman Printing, and they were excellent because it was, we didn't know till we went on that field trip that Chapman Printing, I didn't know was how huge it was, and it was worldwide, and they're sending stuff all over the place, and I came in, I'm like, can you print 700 brochures? They're like, sure, but they helped me through it, and she loved it, and like I said, it was one of the nicest ones in the bunch, so I was pretty proud of that. And that led me to people in our town. This is my friend Matt Champlin. He's running for sheriff. He saw this brochure. He wanted something like it. It ended up me being his campaign manager. So we've taken his brochure and kind of ran with it, and it's led to t-shirts. And t-shirts was something that I wanted to get into, and this one kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone because I kept telling myself, I don't have time. I don't have time. Matt was like, can you do me 20 t-shirts? Sure. Can you do 100 t-shirts? Sure. How about 300? Now I need 800. I did that while I was working full-time, and I'm so glad for next Tuesday to be over, but it's really got my name out there, and it's something that when you're in business, I believe Mr. Augie, right, said, he said, don't associate me with, Democrat or Republican or whatever, but when these opportunities come up, sometimes you need to take them. And I haven't been out marching around with a sign or anything, but I've got a lot of contacts through doing this campaign for him. One thing that I do a lot of that I probably bite off a little more than I can chew is community stuff. And this was Book a Bike, which I also did while I was in school here. Our library started a program where you could check out a bicycle with your library card. So they needed a logo, they needed something that could go on bikes, flyers, the bicycle baskets, the signs for the walking and bike trail that we have in Galplis. So this was the first thing I sent them, and I already loved it as soon as I sent it to them because I thought, no matter which one of these they can use all of them. So that was a little bit of a branding and identity system that I did. And here's the actual bikes at the library. Makes me proud when I see them riding through town. Here we go again with the, I don't know what's happening. Here we go this way. Okay. Next community thing that I was recently involved with was we had Paw Patrol party in the park. And this was a young couple that has River City Leather, which is a company in Galplis that I absolutely love, and my boss, which is Pippin Huds. And then we had some other major sponsors, Pleasant Valley Hospital, Farmers Bank. But we bought these costumes, and they're at Paw Patrol. We had to sell tickets twice. We sold out both times. It caused a humongous uproar in Galplis, and we cleared $10,000 in 4 hours in one day. And a lot of it was because I worked really hard on getting these ads out to people and sharing them, and people loved them. They thought they were the real deal. I mean, obviously these aren't Paw Patrol logos. You can't do that, but we tried to come up with something fun. We did YouTube videos, Facebook and Instagram. We never advertised it on TV, radio, or anything like that, and it sold out. It was awesome. Live music, that's at a local, the Colony Club. They do live music, and I've done I think that probably 8 different posters for them, and we always do, you know, something similar so people recognize it. They know it's at the Colony Club. And that brings me to what I'm doing myself. And I love t-shirts. I've always loved t-shirts. I buy them everywhere I go. And I also love getting my hands dirty. Sometimes when you do graphic design and you're on the computer all the time, you don't get to draw and, you know, work with your hands and do that side of it, the fine art side of it. So when I was in school here, I did my internship with my cousin in St. Louis, Missouri. She has a company called 314 Print House, and she taught me about graphic design, vinyl, some different things that she was doing. And then just about, I think it's been 4 months ago, I went to Cincinnati for 2 days and I took a class with Ryonet. It's a screen printing company, and they actually do classes at different places all over the United States to show off their product. Not to do a pitch for them, but Ryonet's made in the USA. It's quality product. They're super helpful, and they have all kinds of people that do all different kinds of screen printing. So they're really nice to know and extremely, extremely helpful. But anyways, I went to Cincinnati. I took this class, and I started thinking, am I going to buy screen printing equipment because I work full time? I don't really have time to do screen printing. Well, the guy that was teaching the class said, hey, don't buy it. Send me all your designs, I'll print it for you. Be a contract printer, and you can see if you like it. So that's what I'm doing. I didn't make the investment because the setup I wanted was going to be about $30,000 just to start up. So this is how I'm starting. These are the retail tags and my gift bags. I'll tell you a little bit about Lucky Cat in a second. And just last night we did a photo shoot. These are some of the designs, and these are some kids that work at the businesses that I'm associated with. And this is going to launch Friday. I have a pop-up shop at the Silver Screen 7, and then I'll be selling online. And I love this one right here. But I'm super excited about that. These haven't even been edited, these pictures, so I'm real happy with. I mean, we just did this last night at 5 o'clock. But Lucky Cat is literally a little Japanese gold Lucky Cat statue that's in our office. People love it. It's in the window. Kids love it. They stop by and look at it. And I didn't want it to be called Alicia Meadows or Designs by Lish or whatever. I wanted something that I could brand. And I love red. I love Coca-Cola. I didn't do this on purpose, but I just realized that the other day it kind of has a little bit of a Coca-Cola look to it. And I love this little Lucky Cat. And I think it's something that can carry on throughout the brand. And just what little buzz we put out there on Instagram and Facebook, I think in the first 3 days the Facebook page was up, it really blew up because the guy that I work with said, you know, you got to have 40 likes on Facebook to do certain stuff. And I was like, that's not a problem. And threw it up there, and it took off. And I think we had like 100 likes in 3 days maybe. And that's not a whole lot, but for not even putting any product out there, that's pretty good. And so basically, I'm going to see where this goes, and I plan to continue working at Rocket 7 Interactive because of all these connections that's landed. But if this takes off, this would be what I love to do. And I brought a couple of t-shirts, and this is, you know, they're simple, they're not really complex, but they're based in our town, and you know, there's a lot of businesses out there that do a lot of bigger cities, Cincinnati, Columbus, but these are going to be based on mostly Doubtless and our surrounding areas, and have little retail tags. And, they're not regular t-shirts, they're super soft, certain brand, a little bit higher end t-shirts, but I think we ordered 600 to start with, and I've already ordered a couple hundred more and haven't moved yet, so that's a little bit about me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys have. I know that was a lot, but
Okay, So I had a PowerPoint presentation, and I decided to just sort of scratch it because I took a little different turn this morning. So what I'd like for us to do, if you have anything in your ears or on your lap, or could you just move that out of the way, please, and sit comfortably in your seat and take everything out of your hands. And bring your hands down to your thighs. Just kind of rest them on your thighs. All right, good. And then close your eyes. And I promise I won't do anything bad while your eyes are closed. Your purses are safe. So just close your eyes and allow your shoulders to just relax. And if you're breathing in and out of your mouth, try to just close your mouth and put the tip of your tongue behind your teeth and relax your jaw. And imagine that your jaw had a lot of space in it. So in between your left and right jawbone, just imagine that space widening. And as you draw the breath in through your nose, I'd like for you just to take these few seconds that it takes you to take the breath in. Allow the bones in your legs that are resting on your seat to just become heavy. And then when you exhale the breath from your nose, imagine that your spine and all of your upper body bones and muscles can just relax with gravity even more into your leg bones and into your leg muscles, and visualize your whole physical body just becoming almost like a puddle in your chair. And if it helps, when you breathe in, maybe count. I know for me, sometimes I can only count to like 5 or 6 when my goal is to maybe get to 10. And just notice that. Try not to judge it, but just notice how long it takes you to take a breath in through your nose. And then when you exhale, do the same thing. Count maybe to 10, maybe to only 4 or 5. Again, this is not a contest. And I'd like for you to notice just the quality of your breathing. And if it feels a little weird to breathe only in and out of your nose. And maybe you can do a little sort of self-study and say, oh, well, I think I'm a mouth breather, or no, I breathe in and out of my nose. And the nostril breath is really, it's very calming. So I wanted to just start with this to give you a little tool, so when you're coming into a place of maybe anxiety or stress, you can drop into this moment that you have here with me and invite a little bit of space. And what I find and what I'm seeing, especially because I have an 18 and a 21-year-old, is that sometimes we think finding space is with our cell phones and with Facebook and with Instagram and with video games and whatnot, but really the most incredible space is within us. And if we take just these moments, even when we're gathered here in this community, to just be still and breathe, we can maybe tap into a little bit of what Alicia and Mr. Augie talked about earlier. So we find our creativity, we tap into that creative light by creating space within ourselves, not by creating more stuff and more work and more things to do. Just open your eyes. Okay. Thank you for indulging me in that. So, because I'm normally not quiet, ever. Ever. So, wow. So, that practice that I just took you through is something that I do for myself, if not on a daily basis, at least a couple times a day. I graduated from high school when I was 17 years old, and I graduated from Marshall University when I was 19. I graduated from law school when I was 23 with a 5-month-old on my hip. I'm trying to illustrate how my life wasn't always slow and calm and steady. And it took me a lot of falls, a lot of disappointment, a lot of sadness, a lot of really difficult times to find my passion and to get to a place where I am right now. So I suspect that many of you are here not by way of a joyful ride, but perhaps a rocky one. And I'm here to tell you that if you can take your life's difficulties and challenges and take a moment to stop and breathe and be still, that you can take those really crappy things and turn them into something phenomenal. And for me, that is working with people like you every single day and helping affect real change in their life. So I'm not going to bore you with frankly the boredom of being a corporate lawyer and putting on a suit every day and going to an office because that's really that's not the great part. The great part was after getting out of that and getting starting my own business and thinking that I was on the top of the world, getting a divorce, becoming a single mom, cutting my income in half, but then taking that and really drilling down and working into something pretty phenomenal. And that's when I found yoga. So I like to call it yoga school. I went to yoga school after going through some really just icky things in my life. And yoga school taught me these tools, one of them which I just shared with you earlier. And I started doing private work out of my house in 2008, and then I started teaching small classes out of my house. That one class turned to 2, then 3, then 4, and then my neighbor said, "Look, you got to stop parking cars here on our street, 6 times a week." So I was kind of forced to open a studio. I didn't want to open a studio. I never wanted to be a studio owner. But I had so many people that were coming to classes and embracing this idea of slowing down and finding strength from adversity that I kind of had to. So I opened the studio in 2013. That was Brown Dog Yoga. And I still maintain some of my private work, and I still do that, not as much. But in 2013, I opened with 2 instructors, with 1 studio, and it's 2016, and we have 3 practice spaces, and we just opened a cycling studio in May. And you might be like, why a cycling studio? Well, I love yoga, and it's done a great deal for me, but I'm one of these people that, if I have a piece of chocolate cake and I love that chocolate cake, I will eat it until I make myself sick. and then it's all over, then no more chocolate cake. But I started traveling and going to yoga retreats, and I found that, gosh, after sitting and meditating, my body needed something more, so I started taking cycling classes in different cities, and I fell in love with it, and finally got to the point where I said, I love this so much, and it reminded me so much of yoga, because you get on the bike, you ride to the beat of the music, you kind of zen out. Kim can tell you, because she's a frequent rider at the studio, and it reminded me of yoga, but it was sort of a different discipline. It was a little more what we call in yoga rajasic, more fiery. So I thought, we don't have a cycling studio, so I guess I'll just open one. So that's what we did. And I am not a techie. And when Kim, after she got me to agree to do this, and she said, well, you're talking to technical people, I was like, oh my God, can I just do yoga? Because I am not technical. To be perfectly honest, I hire all of this done, and you guys are clearly way more professional than I am in this technical. I might need to hire you guys because I don't like social media. I frankly hate it. I personally think that we do too much of it. I hate texting. I'd rather you pick up the phone and call me and say, "Hey, I really want to hear your voice. I don't want to read your words on a screen." That's me. I know we need it. I use it, and I'm grateful for it, but I truly believe that we've lost too much in the way of relationships. I want to look in your eyes, and you have beautiful eyes, by the way. So I want to connect at a soul level. So that's just me. So I hire this stuff out. So I don't know if it's good or not. Be kind, because it may frankly suck. I don't really know. I just do what I need to do to run our business and to affect positive things in people's lives. So this is our Instagram account. You said it's a touch screen, so do I do this? Okay. We started with 3 teachers in 2013. Now we have about 15. We have 60 classes a week, about 30 in yoga, 10 to 12 in a discipline called bar fitness. You'll see this right here. It's the reason we tapped into bar fitness is because it had a yoga aspect to it. Plus, there were a lot of people who were like, yoga's boring, it's too slow, and we wanted to serve a wider community. And frankly, what happens is most people get in the door with, most people come in the door with yoga, but then they're like, well, I kind of want to add something else. So we just offer some different things that add variety to your routine or to your discipline. This is Katie Silcox. She is a very popular yogini, and she came and did a workshop for us last weekend. This is one of our teachers, Valerie. You'll see a lot of her pictures with her kids because we are all about family at our studio. We just recently started doing videos, and you can see we sort of have things peppered throughout. We don't do this whole thing that a lot of businesses do, like they're color coordinated with their pictures. I've been through Instagram accounts where you kind of scroll through and there's 4 pictures make one. We really just post the things that inspire us and that we hope that we think might inspire others just to be a better version of themselves. You're already perfect just the way you are, but you can always sort of shine the mirror a little bit. So that's really our brand and our product. Take you over to Tailwind. This site, as you can see, is not, it's okay. This one we put together in less than a day because we got all of our stuff together. Our bikes started coming in, and we said, we got to have something where people can sign up. So it is very bare bones. We have our new student special, gift cards, schedule, pricing. Very simple. This website, our Brown Dog site, was done with a company called Live Edit. And the reason we worked with Live Edit is because they have an interface with our system, our point of sale processing system. Frankly, I don't really love it either. It serves a purpose, but Live Edit, like when you click on these links, it blows you right over into MindBody, where you can sign up for your classes. You can use your, credit that you have on your account, sign up for a workshop, whatnot. But we have a Facebook page. We have probably 3,000 likes on our Facebook page. I have people saying likes don't matter. Frankly, you know how I feel about social media already, so I don't really, I want people to like us, but I really want people to, want to come and find what they're searching for, which, again, I believe is inside of us. So, and the reason I say that is because I spent, my teens, my 20s, my early 30s searching, being a lawyer. Oh, law's not enough. I'll get a master's degree. Oh, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that. And it took a really long time for me to figure out that, the outward stuff was not where it was. So I'm in the business of providing hopefully some solace from within. This is not to say that you don't need these things, because you have to have them in order to tell the world what you're doing. But I don't think I'm one that's up here saying that, oh, mine's the most creative and it's the most engaging, because our product is really the service that we provide at the studio. So, does anybody have any questions? Yoga, because that's really my expertise. I could probably tell you how to draft an employment agreement, but I don't think you're interested in that. So, yeah. But I have schedules, and we have a card right now that we do this 30 days for $30 thing, but if you bring one of those cards in, you get 40 days for $30. So if you want to try us out, we have meditation classes, we have heated yoga, we have gentle yoga, we have a basics workshop that's starting Thursday night that'll go for 3 weeks. So there is something for everyone. All shapes, sizes, ages are welcome, and again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So, all right, thank you.
Great. Can you hear me? Is this working? You're good? Okay. I'm going to hand out a couple things. What we got here, this is, like I said, I've been writing comic books, video games, and television stuff for the last 30 years on and on. These are just samplings right here. And some on this, like 24, the TV show, did the comic book for that. Wynonna Earp, which is what I'm currently writing right now, which is on Sci-Fi Network. We just had our first season. We just got signed on for a second season. I'll pass that on that side. There's one on this side. And this book is kind of interesting in the fact they took, I think, 6 American comic book writers, and they matched us up with 6 South Korean animators. And these were the young, the best animators that Korea had to offer, but they had no experience with the comic book genre, so they said, we want to be with you guys, make this collaboration and see if we can't do anything. So I got to work with a talented young man. After we did this, he went on to work on the X-Men at Marvel. I've marked it right there, so pass that around. And you can take a look around. I'm jibber-jabbering here. How many of you all out here feel that you've got some creativity? Be honest. All right, see? How long have you had this? Since you were young? Real young? All right. Well, I was the same way. I can take it back to I was 4 years old. And I'm not comparing myself with Michael Jordan or Wayne Gretzky, but I'm sure they had the same thing the first time they touched a basketball or the first time they touched a hockey stick. They had to feel drawn to it. When I was 4 years old, someone in my family gave me a comic book. Now, granted, 4 years old, I cannot read, but I was mesmerized. I mean, absolutely mesmerized by these words and these pictures. And a good storyteller, when you're an artist, can take pictures, static pictures like that, and tell a story. So even though I could not read the words, I knew what was going on in this story. But I knew these words were the key to a world that I wanted to go to. So about first grade, I was pretty excited about it. I thought, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to learn to read. I can come home and read all these comic books I have. Well, what I didn't take into consideration was I thought I was going to go to school that morning and come home that evening and be able to read all these comics. I was pretty disappointed on that. But, years and years of schooling, got to where I could read all these. In fact, I still have the very first comic that I bought just so I could read that day. And I've read it many times. It's kind of a constant inspiration. I've had it framed, and it's in my office so that it's always there that I can say, hey, this is where it began. It's something I always wanted to do, but and I'm old as dirt, guys. I mean, I did my homework with a hunk of coal in the back of a shovel. It's that long ago. And we did not have not only the technology that we've got today that you guys have, but even our teachers at that point. Oh, Bo, you like to write? Well, maybe you should do newspaper or magazines. It was that kind of thing. We didn't have, John and I were talking earlier, we really wasn't mentoring back then. and if you had a teacher that really wanted to take the time to say, oh, he's really good at writing, he's really good at drawing, or putting this together, they didn't either have the time or the inclination to steer you in that direction. And I was luckily enough in high school, went to Huntington High, and there was a creative writing teacher that I had. She took me to the side. She goes, "What you're doing is really interesting. It's really good. It's really weird, but you need just to channel your grammar's not really good." Because that was like math. When it came to that part of school, I was okay. How can dinosaurs fight cowboys? I mean, my mind was just elsewhere. And she directed me to where you need to take a grammar class. You need to know a little more about this, that. And I said, okay, these are tools that I need. So I did that. And I'm trying to shorten all this stuff because, trust me, I have diarrhea of the mouth. I could go on and on and on. And it's not that I like to hear the sound of my own voice. I just get nervous and I want to talk a lot. But she helped me out a lot, and that was a special teacher. I think nowadays I raised 3 sons of my own, and they had a lot of special teachers, a lot that guided them into the path that they needed. I had to kind of pick and choose my own mentors, teachers, whether they liked it or not, and they were people in everyday life. To give you an example, when I was in 6th grade, my mom and dad asked me what I wanted for my birthday. I told them, I want to call Stan Lee up on the telephone and talk to him. Stan Lee is the writer, co-creator of Marvel Universe in general, and that's just cutting it short. And they looked at me like, would you rather have a bike? And I said, no, I want to talk to Stan Lee on the phone. I want to tell him about all these ideas I have to write comics. Well, it ends up I've nagged them enough to where they found the number in New York, and the day of my birthday I got the call. Well, Flo Steinberg, who was his assistant, I guess you'd call her personal assistant now, she answered the phone. She was probably just out of college. She was so nice to me. She knew I was a 6th grade kid. She talked to me. Stan's in the other room right now, and he really can't. He's writing the latest issue of Spider-Man. He really can't take time to talk to you right now because you want that comic to come out, don't you? And I said, oh, yeah. So she talked to me for a long time, asked me what I was interested in, and really treated me nice. I never forgot that. Hung up the phone. 2 weeks later, I get a package, and in it was a very nice handwritten letter from Stan Lee. He had signed a comic book and some postcards and sent me some Marvel stickers that they had, which I have most of those framed, and they are still at the house. So right there, 6th grade, I knew there was something. I was drawn to this. This was something I wanted to do. And again, the tough part is, how am I going to get to do it? By the time I got to Marshall, I mentioned earlier, I thought, well, journalism is it. I'm going to have to write for magazines. I'm going to have to write for a newspaper. Loved it, did okay with it, but I'll be honest with you, I was bored with it because if you have an ounce of creativity and you don't have an outlet for that creativity, you can be miserable, or you can make other people miserable. We had a Australian shepherd, and I don't have any cattle or sheep for him to herd, so his life was kind of semi-miserable because he was passionate about that. His instinct is what he wanted to do. So when he didn't have that, he said, okay, well, my job is going to be to guard you 24 hours a day. And he became the Jack Bauer of 24 of the dog world. Every room I went in, he went in with me. He always made sure, okay, I'm going to get between you and the doorway. Always. I mean, he did this by instinct. I would lay on the bed. My wife would come back there, and she'd, and he'd be, and he loved her. I mean, he absolutely loved her, but you're not getting close to the boss. It was that kind of, that's the way he looked at it. So I'd say, Blue, down. He'd get down. I kind of thought it was funny for a little bit, but she didn't, so I had to work a lot with getting trained at. Now, granted, when I would be gone traveling, she would become the person. No one could touch her. He lived to be about 15, 16 years old, so it was quite an experience. I based a comic book character off of him named Cobb, who's a former Secret Service agent. He has this natural drive that I had with comic books, but his was to protect. It was something he did from elementary on. It was just a natural, instinctual thing that he wanted to do. Cobb is going to be a television series in 2018, so that'll be the next one that they've taken of mine and adapted. So again, I get off a little subject, but creativity is so important. You guys got it. You have to find an outlet to it, but it's not just you just can't write, you just can't draw digitally, whether it's pen, ink, any ink, whatever it may be. You also, and everybody's hit on this so far, you've got to be able to, and I'm going to put it in just simple terms, you've got to be able to promote and market yourself. You are your product. I mean, let's look. How many people actually make it to the NFL, the NBA? How many people, they want to be movie stars, whatever it may be. Not that many, but I guarantee you all of them at some point have promoted and marketed themselves, because Stan Lee was probably a big influence on me for the simple fact, when I was a kid, DC Comics, they had comics, I could tell even at that age they were run by old men, because they did not make you feel a part of the club. Stan Lee, even though he was the same age, he opened the door to the clubhouse and said, come on in. He listed all the creators that did the comic books, he gave personal information about all of them. They let you be in the club, and that was something that I've done with my career from day one, was I always wanted the readers, a lot of people say the fans, but it's the readers, the viewers. Those are your extended family in entertainment and in creativity. You invite them in. And in the terms, they will invite you into their house or their eyeballs to read your comic books, in my case. And you have to do that. It's hard. That's probably, with a lot of the creative people that I work with, that's the hardest part, is I'm shy, I'm introverted. Well, we all are to a certain extent, and I am as well. I've got a small circle of friends. But I know when I do this, or when I'm doing a convention, I did a store signing at Barnes & Noble Tribeca in New York just 2 weeks ago. And we had capacity. There was probably 250 people there to get my Winona Earp book signed. And I'm thinking, oh, and I've done this for a long time, but I still get nervous about that. Well, all I got to do, I just look at myself, I'm a radio. Okay, this is you. You just got to turn the volume up a little bit. Now, granted, this afternoon when I go home, oh, it's going to be nap time for me, because this is physically exhausting. My dog and I hike 4 miles every morning. This is something, except Sunday. That's what we do all the time. Go to the gym 3 days a week. Well, this is harder on me draining-wise than any of the physical activity. And it's just, but that's a good thing, because you need to exercise your anxieties. I guess that's the best way I can think of to say it. And if you don't do it, trust me, then I get like my Australian Shepherd used to be. Okay, instead of who can I protect, okay, who can I bite? It's that kind of a thing that gets you wound up. But you don't deny your creativity, guys. I mean, I know that that's not helping you out with the writing, the drawing. I'm not going in. There's not enough time to go into how you write and construct a story. That I can always do. You can find me on the internet, that sort of thing I can do. Without taking up too much more time, I'm going to. Okay, what we got here, I've got Winona Earp. That's one of the comics. I did it 20 years ago. It's season 1. We've got season 2 coming up. We'll show you the trailer just in case you haven't seen it. You might, and we'll go with that. This did not happen. Like I said, I'm 61, 62 in December. This stuff usually happens when you're 20, 25, even 30 years old. I didn't get into the comic book business until I was 30. Didn't write my first video game until 35. And at that point, for Capcom, the only video game I'd ever played was Pong. So when the game came out, I had to have my son play it and do it to the different levels just to get to the part that I wrote, because I kept dying within 10 seconds. So it's the point I'm trying to get to is, guys, it does not happen overnight. There were 8 other guys with me when we went to Marshall. We were all going to do comic books, and I was the only one that did. We got married, we had kids, we had jobs, but I at least set aside 10 to 15 minutes every day for me with writing to write. To give a real quick point to drive what drove me to it. I was working here locally, and it was every job is interesting, and you can learn from every job. But this one, I was as far as I could go in. And I was recently divorced at that time. I was not living with my son. It was not fun and games. And unfortunately, sometimes that happens in our lives. And then I left my job, went out, sat in the parking lot in the back tailgate of my truck. And I said, this isn't going to work. You can't be. I don't want you personally to be 40 years old and not try what you really want to do. So at that point, I was 33. I said, let me try to make this comic thing work. So I started going to conventions. I knew no one. And this was before the internet, so I did not have the availability of being able to contact people. But I started talking to anybody, not so much other writers or artists, but to the editors. Who could do the hiring, who could do the firing, that kind of thing. That's where I made my connections. That's who I started showing my stuff to. I wrote a lot of letters to comic books. Back then, whatever comic I'd buy that week, I'd go back and write a letter to the editor. And I got a lot of them printed because I tried to be creative and constructive criticism at the same time. But it's like everyone up here has mentioned, it's contacts. If you don't make contacts, even small, large, and again, this goes back to promoting and marketing yourself, because you're always going to be the first product. Before your creativity, your writing, your drawing, your graphic design, whatever it may be, you're part of the product. And you've got to learn to push that product, even if you don't want to. Trust me. My wife, thank goodness, she can draw me out. Oh, we're going to go to this social event. Oh, we're going to go to But thank goodness she is there to pull me out. Because even now, I mean, it's... I did this last year, and I was notified again this year. My natural instinct is, oh, there'll be people, and I'll have to talk. But the other party's going to do it. You've done this before. You've done it for 30 years. This is going to be good. Because really the bottom of the boot is, if there's one of you out there that was in the same position I was at that time and did not have anyone just to say, hey, that old guy did it, I can do it, I'm a lot younger than he is. If that one point can get driven in, and you can push yourself to do it, then whatever ends up, if I live to be 100, or I never say, or I could die tomorrow because that scares me. But if I could live to be 100, and I've helped somebody out, that's a big deal to me. That really is. So, I'm not gonna, like I said, I can talk all day. I'm not going to drive on, but if you have creativity, you got to nurture that. And if you just take 15 minutes out, today, dedicate to that creation that you have. I can't stress how important that really is. And as far as jobs and stuff, there's no job that's boring. There really is. You can learn from any of it. So if you're doing a job that you think, this isn't what I want to do, I'm moving the furniture every day. But there's something you can learn from that you can apply to your creativity. Trust me, I have done it. I worked a lot of retail, and I got to observe a lot of people. That got me into the marketing, which ended up helping. Not only do I market myself, but I market toys and books and different stuff. But you can always apply what you learn. You really can. I mean, I know that sounds like old school, old teacher, what do you know, old man type stuff. But it really does apply. So I don't know if it'll take up any more time, guys. I'm going to get back to the regular stuff.
Thank you, Don. You were very creative with your microphone. Anyone notice?
When you all play this back, it's just going to be a lot of swishing. I'm sorry.
All right, but thank you so much. Let's have questions and answers now. Let's wrap this up with a few questions for our panelists. So their names are here. John, look what he's done with his nameplate. Is it beautiful, creative? And we've got Josh, Alicia, Katrina, and Bo. So ask some questions.
Let's see. There were the original 5-issue miniseries, then I did a 3-issue miniseries, a graphic novel, and then a 6-issue miniseries. And that's in the span of 20 years. I created it in '96, and it's going, currently we're on issue 8 just came out, and the graphic novel.
So we're just starting from a comic book and then it moved on?
Yep. And we've been optioned by television twice before, once by ABC and the second time by Fox. And it happened to be at the time of Fox, they also optioned Joss Whedon and J.J. Abrams. They had shows Fringe and Dollhouse. And so you have 3, and One on Earth. So you have 3 science fiction kind of shows. You got Joss Whedon and J.J. Abrams and Bo Smith. Now you can pretty much look at the food chain there and know, we're going to make these 2 first, and we'll see. So the option ran out after that after 2 years. So we shopped it around again, and then in 2014, that's when Sci-Fi Channel just said, "Yeah, this is still available. We'd like to jump on this." And that also goes to show you, once you get one sold, the next thing we immediately ask for from the studios, what else do you have? And that's when Cobb, the Secret Service political intrigue, which is no science fiction, but bang, that got signed on. And hopefully that's the way it is, because once you sell something to someone, or you show something, or you get something published, and it does okay or does well, or does a product, the next thing they're going to ask you is, what else do you have? And you always want to have 3 or 4 things to show them immediately. Thank you, Mark. That was a good question. I appreciate it.
Any other questions?
John, with the symphony event that you did the logos and stuff for, where did the idea of the watermelon come from?
I'm so glad you asked.
Because that kind of struck me as somewhat unusual.
Sometimes there are projects that you get, or assignments that you get, that you work it, you're banging your head against the wall. It's like, my gosh, there's got to be an idea here. And I probably labored over that for a good 2 weeks. And I remember I came back from lunch, and I sat down, and I thought, it's a summer festival, it's symphony. What if the cello was watermelon? And at the time, too, and to this day, I'm a real fan of New Yorker cartoons. So I was heavily influenced by New Yorker cartoons, so that not only it's this cello player playing a piece of watermelon, but he's got that sort of, that hoity-toity, aloof. Of course, I'm playing a watermelon. And then what happens after that is your brain is like firing its dendrites right and left. You can't create it quick enough, because it's all right there, right in front of you. So, and then once it came together, it was, adapting it, dressing it in Japanese clothing and Greek attire, and helping the Symphony League out year after year. It's been a real pleasure. Good question. Thanks. Good journey on that one.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
you said that you worked on a title for Capcom. What was that, and also, what challenges did you find in curbing your writing mechanics of the video game?
That was for Capcom. The first one I did was Maximo, and the next one was Maximo Army of Zen. Luckily enough, at that time, they were starting to make changes in video games where they just, at the beginning, the story was limited. And it was like one shooter. I think is that the correct? It's just a bang, bang, bang. Well, I need your all's help on that, because I still stink at video games. But they said, we want you to write this in a screenplay format, which is the way I write comic books, and it's also the way I do television as well. So luckily for me, that was huge, because I I asked them, I said, how much of this do I have to, the interaction between characters? They go, whatever that you need to hit story points. So in the screenplay part, I would write, this is a part where this particular action takes place. This transformation takes place. The player will be able to engage here. And then the designers themselves and the people who actually do the everything else were able to take that, and it gave them a template to work from. It was a great collaborative experience because I got to work with a lot of animators, a lot of game designers who, again, by observing and talking to them, I learned a whole lot. I still can't play video games, very good, but I at least kind of know how the process works. But it was great. I really, really enjoyed that. And you see what it is today. They are basically mini movies. I mean, it's just amazing. Not only has the animation changed, but the storylines as well. Thanks, I appreciate that.
Okay, I think our time is done. Is everyone ready to go at this point? Unless we just have one more quick lightning round. Best piece of advice for these students before we go.
Sure.
Okay, each one of you, lightning rounds.
Listening to everything that's been said, there's that common theme that I think emerged in my view. And that's that if you needed to have one word to sum it up, it's courage. You have to be courageous out there. You have to be courageous. You have to be open to things that come your way. Look at them carefully. Pay attention to the things around you. But the courage that we've all had to muster up, if you will, and in doing so, stretching ourselves more than we've done. So courage would be, I think, the cowardly lion. Courage.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I was going to go along the same point of just to be broad-minded. When you're looking at jobs, when you're looking at finishing school, don't just say, I'm going to do this and only this. Think about, what else can I do? What other skills have I learned? Think about everything that you can do and think, I don't have to just be this or this. I can do whatever. You can do whatever you want. And to have the courage to be able to do that and to take that opportunity.
I would just say to keep your mind open, have the courage, just like these two gentlemen just said, and remember that if an opportunity comes along and somebody asks you to do something, it might not be your dream opportunity, but it might lead you to that point. And also, I've heard a lot of people say, graphic design, how are you going to get a job around here in graphic design? Well, I can tell you that I'm one person, and I'm so busy I can't see straight. And that's one quote that we were talking about quotes earlier. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. And I've had to teach myself, especially the last 2 months, to start saying no, and that's really hard. But I just want you guys to realize that means there's a lot of jobs out there. I mean, Gallipolis is probably a third of the size of Huntington. I might be wrong on that, but I know just we're a lot smaller. And if I'm doing all these fun things, I think they're fun. I think they're kind of a big deal. And I feel like by doing these, I am making our town feel more like a big town. So you got to start somewhere. Start small. Just do it. And time management.
So there's a word that I have created a little sort of acronym. It's called Agni, and the word Agni means fire, and that is Agni is fire in Sanskrit. And that acronym that I've developed and I use for myself is awareness. So even in those times where you take the job to put food on the table, you have the awareness that it's a growth opportunity, and that's the G. So awareness, growth, N is nurture. So if you're in a job that you are not particularly inspired by, take the lessons. There are no mistakes. There are only lessons. Take the lessons from those opportunities and nurture yourself for your own personal growth, and take that time to be still, turn in, breathe, and tap into your own creative light. And then taking those three, awareness, growth, personal nurturing, ignite. Ignite, ignite, ignite yourself into your dream. and there are no boundaries. The opportunities are endless. Thank you so much for holding space and listening today. I think we all feel the same way. So, mine doesn't twirl.
It'll bring me luck. I would say find what you like to do, find what you have a passion for, and find a way to get paid to do that passion. That worked for me. It's worked for a lot of other people that truly do have a strong passion for an interest or an occupation they like, but find a way to get paid for it. And there are ways. Again, I can't stress enough, just having the panel that we've got here today. I'm sitting here listening to everybody, and there are cherry picking just from each one of them. I'm cherry picking things that I will apply, and it's a great opportunity. I mean, we're pretty diverse as far as what we all do, but if you take a little bit of what's here, and you all got the internet, you've got everything else available to you. There's so much that you can pick and choose from, and just run with it. The other thing is, again, find what you like to do, find a way to get paid for it, and then run like you stole it. Okay.
That concludes our program today. Thank you.
Thank you all.